Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with international best-selling author of a daily devotional, Rose Ann Forte. She was a successful C-suite executive and ministry leader in the church. She was a working mom of four and a social drinker. Over the years, life's stresses and a difficult marriage created an environment where her alcohol usage increased significantly. She ended up becoming free of the psychological slavery of this habit through a good process. She identified what alcohol had stolen from her life and understood that God had a better plan for her. She gets into all of this and so much more. Enjoy the interview.
Hey, thank you again for taking a minute out. And before we get into your life as an author and all of the things that make you who you are, I want to know, over the last 3 years, COVID just reacted differently for all of us. How did you survive that time period, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Well, in COVID, we could have gone one of two ways, right? And COVID was a turning point in my life to make my life better. So I had a big drinking problem, and I said, I'm going to die if I don't take care of this, because I needed to be healthy, because alcohol suppresses your immune system and your lung function, both of which were needed for COVID. So that's when I used my isolation time to make some changes, to enter a coaching program, to work on myself, and now I'm giving back because I made it through. There's a better life here on the other side, and I want to let people know, hey, this is the good life right here. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And I hear all kinds of great silver lining stories like that, where it just gave everybody a moment of clarity, and it sounds like that's what happened with you. And I'm curious, I know that you write, but to get to kind of the essence of what you do daily, if I put you in front of a group of grade school kids, third graders at a career day, and one of them looks up and asks you what you do for a living, how would you answer them?
I coach people on how to put alcohol to the side for 12 consecutive weeks, because for many people that is a very difficult and daunting task. So I teach them how they can change their relationship with it and get control over it.
So let's get to kind of the core of who you are. And what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were in the third grade?
A dental assistant.
Excellent. So are you happy with how everything turned out?
I couldn't be happier, really. Yeah.
So let's get to more to the core of who you are. Let's go back to where you were born and raised, and talk to me a little bit about how these seeds got in you to become who you are today. Talk to me about the seminal moments and just kind of overall.
That's an interesting story, because I'm a positive intelligence coach, and one of the things they make you do is understand the essence of who you are. And I thought it was kind of a weird exercise, but I was going to go back to a time in my childhood and close my eyes and visualize myself as a child, not in any traumatic situation, but just, something that stood out. And what came to me was, I don't know, maybe first grade. I used to go out in my backyard, and there was a pond, and I used to collect pollywogs and put them in a bucket and feed them Cheerios every day. And I'd go out every single day and watch the changes in the pollywogs. And when they became frogs, I would release them back into the pond. So I was looking at that picture, visualizing that child going, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I? Oh my gosh, I love to see transformation in people. Like I was just really mesmerized by transformation, and that's kind of what I do now. So that's the connection there. Maybe a long story, but
yeah, no, that was great. No, that's wonderful. So talk to me a little bit about who's consistently been kind of a role model who's motivated you in life?
That's hard for me. So I would say my faith in God has motivated me. I was maybe my dad for a few years, but he wasn't an idol. Like, he was not a good man. So, then later in life I found God, and, I kind of am grateful that I'm a faith-based person, and my book is faith-based. And I'm just grateful to have God in my life.
So if you can meet it, no, go ahead.
Well, and scientifically, it's been shown that, in order to tackle a habit like this, you're 84% more likely to be successful when God's involved. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to ask, kind of up in the ante a little bit, if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Craig Groeschel, a guy named Craig Groeschel. He is a worldwide leadership coach. And boy, he just has a big platform for how to influence and lead.
So, as a writer, I'm curious, what was the book growing up for you that really either made you want to write or made you love reading?
Well, no, that's probably an accident. I think for a long time, as an adult, writing was really not a skill of mine at all. And then as an adult, I felt like I had a message. And I always, in the back of my mind, go, I want to write a book about that. Like, first I wanted to write a book about the religions of the world. Then I got a divorce and I wanted to write a book about toxic marriages. So it was always kind of, bubbling under the surface. And it wasn't till I cleared the path, had clarity, had extra time, had a message where I kind of said, okay, it's time. So that kind of grew over time.
At the end of the day, we learn from all of these things that we experience in life. And I'm curious, if you had a dream tonight, ran into your 20-year-old version, and you could impart advice on that younger version of you based on the wisdom that you've gained over life and the things that you've gone through, what would you tell your young version?
I would tell my younger version to read the Bible, because the wisdom embedded in there is meant to to keep you from the path of destruction, because I did not pay attention. I did not follow any rules, and I was definitely led into an incredible path of destruction. So I'm all in now, and I'm all happy as well. So we look at it as a bunch of rules that make life no fun, but I look at it as like, the bumper guards on life to keep you from getting in trouble. So it's my personal experience anyway.
So what's been one of the best client responses, fan letters you've ever gotten from your writing or from your work overall?
It's got to be something recent, like a friend of mine, when I published the book, she bought it and gave it to her brother-in-law, or she bought it for her sister, and her sister gave it to her husband. And she called me and said, this is just a miracle. It's changed our family's life. He's not drinking. He's happy he's not drinking. And, that to understand when people give feedback that this is life-changing, there's no better purpose in life to know that you've changed somebody's life for the better.
So when you look back on your life and everything that you've done and all of the things that you've been through, what are you the proudest of? What do you ultimately think, wow, I'm glad that happened?
Well, there's a lot of pain and suffering in my life, and I'm glad that I can look at that as something I can use to help others. I think that most great causes in this world were tragedy turned into hope, giving hope to somebody else and compassion for other people. And so I feel like my life's experiences have allowed me to be compassionate for those that find themselves stuck the same way I did. And I can stand here on the other side and say there is something better, I promise,
Absolutely. So everyone out there has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, fans, colleagues, clients, but ultimately you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am someone who I believe is being used and given a purpose to help others. I'm not perfect, but I've learned how to, I'd say the biggest transformation in me is not being affected by the views and comments of others and pushing forward because I believe I have something to share, because it doesn't matter who you are, right? Half the people are going to love you and half the people are going to hate you. And I used to focus on the haters and I don't do that anymore. So, I used to be way too sensitized. So I am a person that's developed into, someone who has confidence about who they are and is okay with shortcomings and can dismiss naysayers with confidence. And that in my life, that's big compared to where I came from.
So Roseanne, if anyone out there wants to pick up anything you're writing, learn more about you, your program, to get rid of the alcohol, anything related to your world, where do they go?
www.theplanshehasforme.com. They can purchase the book there, or they can download the free Kickstart method for alcohol freedom and just kind of get started on their path to a different life.
Excellent, Roseanne. Thank you very much for taking time out today. It was great to get to know you and to hear your story. You're putting a lot of good out there in the world, and I appreciate your story.
I just so appreciate you taking the time out for me, too. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.